Hey, you're watching. I don't want to start with you're watching because watch is in the title. God damn it. Okay. This is Last Watch with Bernard and Tony. Today's show is episode 6 of season 5 of Better Call Saul, Wexler versus Goodman.
Yeah, and this to me was an incredible show. But this is our first podcast. So I just wanted to briefly say why we're doing this. I guess there's just a million podcasts of people talking about TV shows, and it seems like a lot of these guys are expert TV watchers, but we're expert TV watchers and writers, right? So even though I'm loath to call myself a writer, because I don't write lots every day, which I think a real writer does, but I've written stuff, but I'm an editor, so I see stuff and it, like a lot of these shows, and it pisses me off. But
we're storytellers.
What's that?
We're storytellers. We're looking for the heart when it comes to watching TV shows.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shows out there that I hear people talking about and they love for whatever reason. And I'll just name one to not so I offend the least amount of people. But like Westworld, the writing on Westworld drives me crazy because the production values are super high. It's got a great cast. It's got this great world building. And then all of a sudden it just becomes ridiculously contrived plot twists, and there's a gun battle at the end of every show. And it's just stupid. It's stupid, Tony.
That's the reason we started this show, because I was like, dude, Westworld. And you're like, what? No, because this, and this. And I was like, oh, crap, you're right. They lulled me. They lulled me into the gun battle. I accepted it. I don't accept it anymore.
Yeah, there you go. And then we also said, but what about Better Call Saul? Now, there's some freaking good writing, right?
Exactly. And then it's just like, dude, we should talk about this on the videos.
Yes, so here we are. So this episode, you gave me a warning. You said, whoa, this is a heck of an episode. And it really seemed like the entire series was leading up to this moment. Right? We have Jimmy McGill, a.k.a. Saul Goodman, who we knew from the jump was going to turn into Saul Goodman because we've all seen Breaking Bad. This is the prequel to Breaking Bad, of course. And they showed him being, it was I like the slow burn of the show. I think it was a little too slow for a lot of people, especially the first season. And there wasn't much of a surprise. We see Jimmy trying to be a good guy, but he's really a bad guy, and he always slips into his bad ways. Slippin' Jimmy, And then there was the whole dynamic with his brother and all that stuff. But I think the real dynamic on the show is between Jimmy and Kim. And we know Kim is not in Breaking Bad. So the question is like, what happens to Kim? Does she leave, or is she killed, or we don't know what? But yeah. but I think that this episode just really explained her character in a very economical way with that opening teaser. Made us understand her relationship with Jimmy in a way that was kind of inexplicable before. It was always like, she's this super competent, high-powered lawyer. What is she doing with this loser, basically?
Well, I don't think he's a loser. I mean, he is a loser to a point, but there's some, if you remember earlier seasons, she really gets off on what they could pull over on strangers. Do you remember, probably like season 2 or 3, where we start to get to know the relationship, and they're at bars and they're like tricking people here and there, and there's fire between them. It's if they had just straight up sex in front of the camera, it would not have shown as much fire as the excitement they were having on getting one over on each other.
Yeah. But there's the question is, though, still, okay, so maybe he's not a loser, maybe that's the wrong word, but he's a scoundrel. He's a liar. He is not to be trusted. And why is she sticking with him? Sure, they have fun, right? But
yeah.
It seems like there's been numerous times where he's just massively disappointed her or lie to
Oh, in
her,
this
and he always
episode,
forgives him.
yeah, these last two episodes have just been him disappointing her to no end. I mean, she's, you could tell that. I mean, the episode is her essentially. We're watching Jimmy, but we're watching her just break. And when we get to the last scene, she finally just like, we can't do this anymore. Can we just jump to the last scene real quick? Because that freaks me out. Because I was like, breaking up with him. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Or we can get married.
Yes.
I'm like, that doesn't solve a thing. I did that once.
Yeah.
It lasted 13 years.
But that to me, that was like that moment blew me away. Right, we've got to end this. I can't take it anymore. You can't even look me in the eye and tell me you're not going to lie to me again. But there's like, but don't leave me. You know, there was that again, that first teaser scene that showed young Kim waiting for her drunken mother to show up, and her mother shows up and lies to her. And it just like, I was like, oh, I get it. She's the adult child of an alcoholic. She has these horrible abandonment issues. She's a total people pleaser and a codependent. I'm using recovery language, but I can't help it. It was just like right there. It was it was so in your face. And so she's like, she can't take Jimmy anymore. She can't take the lying, but worse than that would be if he abandons her, or she can't stand to be alone. So she's like, let's get married. Let's seal the deal. I'm all in. I'm all in on it. Even though I know you're going to keep lying to me and abusing me, but I can't, you know what I mean? She's just like all in on this abusive, dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah, I know it's like, because Saul's demons are just, they're actually really nuanced. Even though he's lying and being a dipshit, he's doing it from such an honest core and from such a hurt man whose like brothers disowned him, and that blonde dude, the lawyer who Howard, yeah, is it Howard?
Yeah, Howard. That was something I didn't understand. Maybe you could explain that to me. Why Howard has made this sort of like magnanimous move. Like, I know your brother, who was my partner and the head of the firm, fucked you over. I think you've actually got a lot of promise. I want to bring you in. He's made this, kind of like peace, offering the peace pipe. And Jimmy responds by like throwing bowling balls on his Mercedes and setting him up with like hookers in the, in the country club. I'm not quite sure why Jimmy's response was to like stab him in the back as hard as he could when he was making that offer. Did that make sense to you?
That also came to mind, because it is like, why is he going out of his way so much? And I feel like we're leading towards something. So I feel like maybe we're going to lead toward Howard really wants to shut him down. Howard is his nemesis through the whole series. I mean, he's been nothing but a piece of shit to Better Call Saul. So I think Jimmy is kind of maybe seeing through this a little bit, and might be more.
Yeah, you got it. I just figured it out. The fascinating thing about this episode is that everybody in this episode, every scene, people are lying and playing somebody else, right? Like Mike is pretending to be a private eye, and he's playing the librarian woman. Then he's in the police station. He pretends to be a cop and says to the guy, how come that, paper's not on his desk? And Nacho is lying to his boss, setting up his boss. And Howard is probably setting up Jimmy somehow, right? With this offer. And Jimmy sees through it because you can't shit a shitter, right? That makes sense.
And poor Nacho, man, he's in the middle of all of this, and he just wants to save his dad. That's going to be a spinoff, I think. Either him or who's the guy that's the boss of him?
Lalo.
I want to see a spinoff of Nacho and Lalo. Now, this could go for decades.
Now refresh my memory. I don't think either Lalo or Nacho is in Breaking Bad.
They're not.
They're not. Okay.
I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're both only in the Better Call Saul
Yeah.
universe.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's. I also just love, the fact that we sort of know how this ends. I mean, not fully, because there's still the flash forwards that they show in Omaha, where where
Right.
Saul is working at the Cinnabon. Interestingly absent from last couple of episodes.
Yeah.
We can guess what happens there, but we know exactly where Saul Goodman's going to end up. He's going to end up like the dirtiest lawyer in the world, knowingly working for meth dealers and whatever, just giving up any pretense of morality. But at the same time,
But at the Cinnabon, but being at the Cinnabon means he left all of that, right?
right, right, right. The Cinnabon is like after Breaking Bad, right? They show those.
Yeah.
They show those. So there was a scene in one of the last episodes of Breaking Bad where Saul is saying, like, he's screaming at Walter White. He's like, "We're screwing this up. What am I? I'm going to end up being like the manager of a Cinnabon in Omaha, Nebraska." Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's rad. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, again, they pull off this trick, which is great. It's like the plot really doesn't matter. We know what the plot is. There's drug dealers scheming against each other. Saul's gonna start working for him. Mike's working for him. We saw this all. We introduced the characters, but at the same time, it's beautiful because the plot doesn't matter, and there's still like a suspense as to what's going to happen to Kim, what's going to happen to Nacho, what's going to happen to Lalo. How are they all going to fit these pieces together? And there's just this great sense of impending doom and dread around the whole series that I find fascinating.
Wait, you brought up something that just flashed into my mind because it is character driven, and even though other series are character driven, it's so pounding on plot so much where we could really just settle in character and let these actors play out scenes almost like a play.
Yeah.
And they I believe plot is still very strong in it, but we don't have to be hit so hard with it, and that's why Better Call Saul is kind of lucky because they created this character in another series. Right. And they did the best thing ever. They didn't do the Ropers spinoff from Three's Company, or they didn't do that. What they did is they said, look, we got this three-dimensional world already. Let's sink into the psyche of this character, and let's just make people sit in it. Like even that first season, those episodes were kind of like, where are we going? And they're just like, you know what? You're sitting in this because you know who this is. You're on board. Bob Odenkirk is a bitchin' actor, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Even his comedy delivery just is sad. If you watch like old Mr. Show episodes, his delivery just comes from such a place of like earnest and sadness, even when it's hilarious.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of Bob Odenkirk. For me, a lot of shows, everybody knows this, but especially the more successful ones, the first season is just they're testing stuff out and they're figuring out really who the characters are and what the world is, as they go along. Better Call Saul was very much like that. The first couple of episodes had a lot of comedy in them, which they but even like where I'm going with this is Breaking Bad. To me, Breaking Bad became Breaking Bad. It was the third or fourth episode of season 2, the episode called Better Call Saul, where they introduced Saul Goodman. And I'm a huge Odenkirk fan. I'm a huge fan of Mr. Show. Anytime I see him pop up anywhere, I'm just like really happy. Great example of a comedian who's got just, who's got great acting chops. Sometimes any decent comedian has a great sense of timing. And sometimes that translates into excellent acting. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not going to name names, but some are better at it than others. I think he's fantastic. But yeah, that episode, Better Call Saul of Breaking Bad, is when they really established like the sense of the show, that this is like a really dark, it's black humor. is what it is, right? Breaking Bad was just gallows humor, and he became the comedic aspect. And it's interesting how he's not funny on this show. What's that?
How Saul Goodman, what Saul Goodman did for Breaking Bad was he kept it. He kept the bringing him in with the universe was just it was a perfect mix. Yeah.
But he kept the show from, from being like he added the comedic element, and it's kind of interesting that there's much less comedy now in Better Call Saul than there was in Breaking Bad. I mean, Breaking Bad was like a dramedy, right? It really was. I mean, maybe Better Call Saul is too, but it seems like it's lower key, that they're lower key on the comedy and much more dread. But another thing I love about the show.
And Bob Odenkirk.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Do we break up? Are you there, baby?
Yeah.
Am I Kim and you're Saul? Just stay with me. Why don't we just get married? Let's just get married.
Or else end this right now. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, you're lying to me and everything, but what if we get married? Then you'll never lie to me again.
I take you up on it if you were Canadian, but
Dude, it's cold up there.
Yeah, but
there's better places.
One other thing I wanted to mention though too, which is I think a lot of viewers who were spoiled by just like heavy action and heavy plot. And I love a well-plotted show. I love the first few seasons of Game of Thrones for that reason. The plot was like so intricate and meticulous. It was just because it was from the books. When they went off the books, it went to hell. But Breaking Bad is like, I don't know if you remember this. I think it was a couple of seasons ago. There was a sequence where Mike thought there was a bug in his car, and there was like a 15-minute montage of him just like taking apart his car piece by piece until he found the bug. And I just thought that was like incredible. Just the slow pace of the show, I think, is hard for a lot of people to track in this day and age. But I love that aspect of it.
And it's so needed. We need to slow down the pace. It's like, yeah, okay, the numbers say, the focus groups say, smash cut, smash cut, smash cut, glitter, 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 pretty face, pretty face, pretty face. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you guys go do that over here. We're going to move it in this direction. And it's almost like we're not going to insult you. If you're in this band, you're on for the ride, and that's it. Right. Agent Orange had a lyric to a song called, it was in Breakdown. It's like, oh my God, the public doesn't get what okay, the public gets what they deserve, not what they demand, unless we all decide to be a business, not a band. Oh. So Better Call Saul is kind of like a punk band going, we're not going to give you what you demand. We're going to give you what you deserve.
Yeah.
Did you like that analogy? That came out of nowhere.
That was pretty good.
I feel pretty good about myself on that one.
So simply put, Better Call Saul, punk as fuck, best written show on TV.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you there.
Okay. All right.
And I'm getting my Canadian citizenship. You'll see the marriage of Bernard and me in 2 years, but we'll let that play out.
Be still my heart.
Oh, but there'll be drama, man. There'll be drama in between.
And dread. Lots and lots of dread.
Yes.
All right. Should we call it a wrap for episode 1?
Let's call it a wrap. That was great. Thanks for watching the show and giving us, indulging us with our pontification as writers. I feel like I should have a pipe in my hand. I'm gonna buy a pipe so I can just sit there and blow a little smoke out and go. And that was the show.
And if anybody doubts we are writers, you can see we both have books behind us.
We have books behind us. And we both have glasses on, and that's all you need.
And sort of beards too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And you were smart enough to wear a hat to cover your.
Because this was bad today.
There we go. This is a pretty cool. Yeah. All right.
No, Yeah, here we are. All right, brother.
See you next week.
Thanks for watching.